Andy, welcome to the very first Hindley Herald Podcast.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Looking forward to it.
Good
Let's
stuff.
see what we can talk about.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk a lot of nonsense along the way. But just on the back of some of the things that we're doing as a golf club, we're communicating through our Hindley Herald newsletter that goes out every week, thanks to Di Stewart. And we're looking to add to that in terms of the content that our members might want to listen to and view. So Andy's done a really good job so far. Andy is our course manager. Done a really good job so far of putting some videos together, showcasing some of the things that we've done around the course and some of the improvements and the things that are coming up over the next 12 to 24 months. But we thought we'd start talking a little bit more about what we're doing out there, what we've seen, and starting to bring in some other areas of the golf club. So we've got our course, we've got our club itself, and we've got the local community. So bringing in those three areas, we thought we'd start with a little podcast. So first of all, let's get a proper introduction from our course manager here. So Andy Birchall, course manager at Hindley Hall.
Yes.
How long have you been here?
So I've been here coming up to 16 years now. It'll be 16 years in April. And 4 or 5 years as course manager, greenkeeper, whatever you like to term it as. We've seen a lot of changes over the years, more so since COVID, I would say. A lot more happening since then, but we're trending in the right direction. I feel we're doing all right. The club's getting busier.
Yeah.
You know, we're open to the public now. Bookings are up. Golf has certainly picked up this year compared to last year, but that's probably down to the weather as well.
Yeah.
You know, that obviously plays a massive factor in the amount of rounds golf is played here at Hindley, unfortunately. But that's just the site that we're on.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the same for many clubs as well.
Yeah, and that's where we're at. We've got plenty to talk about, really.
Yeah.
I think going forward, we've had a lot of work in the pipeline that has been completed or almost completed in the past 3-ish months.
Yeah.
Due again to some decent weather up until the past few weeks. You know, we've had a relatively dry autumn period compared to certainly last year and a few years before that, really.
Yeah. They were going to get into that in a minute, aren't we? Good stuff, setting the scene there. So for anybody that doesn't know, my name's Darren Wood and I'm just a member here at Hindley Hall, also on the committee, and for my sins I work in the golf industry as well. So just facilitating this podcast, bringing in some people, adding a little bit of industry knowledge as well, but it's really about our club, our community and our course. And this episode is really all about where we are now and bringing in some of Andy's, because he is a king of data, if anybody didn't know. Andy loves his data, and the data tells a really interesting story about where we were and where we are as recording this in nearly Christmas, December 24. So let's just rewind the clock a little bit.
Okay.
And we'll go back to midsummer in 2023. Open Championship Week, Royal Liverpool.
The Heavens opened.
The Heavens opened. If anybody doesn't remember that championship, Brian Harman won and everybody had a wetsuit on.
Yes.
Everybody had a wetsuit on. Everybody was dripping wet. And luckily the course withstood.
It did very well.
Not many courses did, though, around the area.
No, it brought for us.
Yeah.
Mid-July.
Yeah.
But we did okay until September, end of September. And then it really went south, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So if we take from the 1st of October 2023 to the 30th of March 2024, we had 989 millimetres of rain. So that's what I would term as our winter period. I know meteorologically it's autumn into winter, but that's what I would term as our winter period. We had 989 mil of rain. If you compare that like for like, as in October 22 to March 23, we had 611 mil of rain. So we're nearly 400 millimetres of rain more
Yeah.
in a same time frame
That's
period.
significant, isn't it?
That's a lot. That's an awful lot. You know, we're a small site here at Hindley Hall with 395,000 square metres. So to put 1 millimetre of water into context for everybody, 1 millimetre water across the golf course is 395,000 litres of water. So every 10 mil of water, every 10 mil of rainfall, we have 3.9 million litres of water that we need to get rid of.
I told you he was the king of data, didn't I?
Um,
That's incredible.
So
Incredible numbers.
It was a seriously wet winter, and unfortunately for us, we had quite a lot of work planned and just couldn't get to it. To do it. It's as simple as that. And you know, we are in the hands of Mother Nature at times, and there's not a lot we can do about it when the heavens open and put so much down. And you know, there does seem to be a trend that whilst we've got less days of rain, we get more rain on the days that it does rain.
Yeah.
So
that's something that, you know, all golf clubs are talking about at the moment.
Yeah.
Again, working in the golf industry, I hear this a lot, that summers tend to be slightly drier and warmer. So we get really dry days, but winters and the rainfall that come tends to be much more intense.
It does
than it has done in, you know, previous years. So I think there's two extremes for us as golfers to have to deal with.
I've not got it with me, but I'm sure I'll have it somewhere that there's a lot more days of rain or 24-hour periods of rain that are higher or more rain falls, 20 millimetres or more of rain in that 24-hour period than in previous years. And I think you could probably trend that from 2018 to now compared to the years previously, that we do get a lot more rain in a shorter space of time.
I think you mentioned 2018 there, and I think that was another dry summer.
Very,
2018. I remember the Open that week at Canusti, and Franco Molinari won. It was absolutely burnt out that week. So those are what I remember from being a child, actually, those really dry summers. And we do get them now and again still, don't we?
We do. You know, COVID was a prime example, you know, even though we weren't open, how dry it was over that sort of lockdown period, and then into the season, into the playing season when it eventually reopened. You know, it was burning off in places and certainly browning off fairways on the crests. You know, so they are around them dry summers. I just wish we could have a few more of them.
Yeah, we could definitely do with a few more coming up, but that sets the scene for where we are heading into 2025 now. So we've got a whole summer behind us. We've had the really wet winter of 23 into 24. And so, again, just jumping forward to spring this year, where did that leave us before we started our main, what we would call the competition season in the UK, April onwards?
Unfortunately, it left us in a bit of a sorry state. If truth be told, you know, we really struggled through that winter. So much rainfall in such a short space of time, relatively speaking, and it left us struggling to still get out there heading into the start of the season to start to present the course, but also to do the necessary maintenance, the hollow coring, the top dressing, the overseeding, scarifying, vertidraining, you know, all these sort of maintenance practices we do, which I'm sure we'll talk about in future podcasts. But all these things that we do that didn't get done or were postponed, we then are certainly on the back foot. So not wanting to jump around too much, but if you go from last winter, this time last year, to now, we're probably 6 or 7 weeks ahead of where we were this time last year. So hopefully, you know, we can stay the course and we'll remain dry or dryish. And we can go into this coming season, the 2025 season, in a lot better condition compared to where we were.
Definitely, Mother Nature plays her part over the the next couple of months. But as we headed into spring this year, we started our main golf competition season, and I think it's unheard of that the county unions extended the ability to prefer your lie all the way through May. We were even thinking that June could be touch and go whether we should be playing it as it lies or not. That's how bad the ground conditions were for not just us, but there was many golf courses.
I don't think there was many places that were suffering in the area, of a similar sort of golf club, Parkland, Northwest England Golf Club.
I can remember seeing something across social media from West Lancs, the Greens team at West Lancs, saying how they suffered as a links golf course and how they, really felt for their Parkland cousins down the road that don't have, the sandy, dry conditions that they have. So if a links course is struggling, then, puts into context what we've had to deal with over spring.
And I have my own little WhatsApp group with a few course managers, head greenkeepers in the area, and everybody was in the same boat. We were all pulling our hair out, and it was like playing top trumps in the morning on who had the most amount of rainfall in the area. Every morning everybody would just send a number, and it was no good morning. It was just a number of how many millimetres were in the gauge in the morning.
Oh dear. But as golfers, we just want to get out on the golf course, don't we?
Yeah.
We've got to manage our expectation as golfers and help our members get out as much as we can. And it definitely was a struggle, but we got there. The hard work that you and the team did and supported the volunteers at the golf club. And there's many volunteers at many golf clubs, and they are essential to helping things.
Yeah, a lot of things
moving on
to happen.
From hand mowing greens when it was still really wet, just to try and give some definition because we couldn't get machinery out there.
Hand mowing the course. We cut the course wall to wall twice with hand mowers.
That sounds an incredible amount of hard work.
That was 4 weeks of work in 2 separate hits. But it was there or thereabouts 2 full weeks of hand mowing to cut all the golf course, just because it had been so wet in the later part of 2023 when that season's coming to an end and you're thinking about putting the course to bed for the winter, and you can't get out there giving it its final cut for the winter. And then the temperatures still stay warm, so we still had that bit of growth permanently ticking over, and things soon got away from us. There's no hiding away from that. It's just what it is.
Yeah. But we got there. We had some good summer of golf. We had a Lancashire golf event here as well with the girls that turned up. The course looked really good that week. We presented.
Played well for them, I think.
I
heard
think
some nice reports. I think they struggled on the greens. We had a small acreage of greens. We're only 0.55 of a hectare, so that's relatively small compared to a lot of places. And some of them greens out there are quite undulating. We can get limited on pin positions in summer if we get a bit dry and a bit fast. Pin positions suddenly become very limited, and I think some of the girls struggled in that sense.
Yeah, and as a member, I can tell you we all struggle as well with the small greens and the pin locations. So, that takes us through summer. Just to fast forward a little bit to where we are now, and we decided as a team, as a committee, that we're going to commit to some projects over the winter to try and improve the drainage of the golf course more than anything else. So, bearing in mind how wet last winter was, we want to try and alleviate some of the pressure points across the golf course based on your experience, your expertise, and your recommendations. We embarked across quite an ambitious program over the winter months, and so far, and I'm going to touch wood.
Definitely.
Mother Nature's not been too bad with us, and you've managed to get some stuff done.
It's done well. We've got a few ditches in. One on the 12th. It was very wet down the left-hand side of the 12th, so that's been installed. There's still a bit of work yet to do to tidy up, but because as I said, we're about 6 or 7 weeks in front, and the autumn period has been so dry, and we didn't know when or if that weather was going to break. It was a case of let's dig it, remove the spoil, and then worry about tidying it up at a later date. Whilst it's still dry, let's get around this golf course and dig the ditches that we wanted to dig. So the 12th has been done. The third has been done. I'll say to a point. We uncovered a huge stone culvert, so those of you who have played should see an awful lot of water running out of one of the ditches. We're just going to wait and see now till sort of mid-January on how dry that area becomes, and if that ditch needs to extend or move. We're not quite sure because of what we've uncovered.
Yeah.
So let's see how it dries out. Hopefully we'll have a dry couple of weeks and we can see whether it really does dry down or if it doesn't, and then we can assess that again. So whilst we wait for that, we're in the process of tidying up the rest of the work. And then moving on, we've started to fill in a couple of bunkers. So the 11th on the back right has been filled
which
in.
you'll see when you drive into the golf course.
Yeah, I think in the 15-ish years I've been here, I can count on one hand the amount of footprints I've seen in that bunker, or the rate being
the
used.
least rate bunker on the golf course.
Yeah, it's never been used, and it's just a bit of a money pit, as all bunkers are. The heavy on maintenance and the heavy on costs. So if we can reduce that and improve the quality of the others, then I think that's the path for us personally. We should go down.
I think that's something we'll touch on in a future pod, is like the sustainability aspect of course maintenance, and that's not necessarily just thinking about the environment. It's also the financial sustainability of having to manage these bunkers, and if there's any that aren't in play or can actually improve the playability of the golf course, we should be considering whether they're actually needed or not, like the one in 11.
So moving on with bunkers, the left-hand side of the 5th bunker is being filled in again, and the left-hand side of the green is being shaped and going to be turned into a runoff and a surround area that's quite extensive out to the left of the green. And then hopefully we will get to the left and right bunkers on the 4th hole as well. We're partially going to be filled in and rebuilt on the left, and on the right the same sort of thing will happen, but more. A new bunker will be created in the middle of the existing one, with the top and bottom of the right-hand bunker being filled in. And then, what else have we got? What else are we doing?
We're doing a lot. You've just done the tees.
We've done the tees.
You've just done the tees.
We've rebuilt the 13th men's tee and increased that by about 30% in size.
Looks good.
The 16th tee's been extended. And the first tee had a bit of a belly, a ridge running down the middle of it.
In it.
So that's been removed and levelled, and they've all been retuffed, and it's gone really well. We got them done first in the first 2 to 3 weeks of September. As soon as the knockout finals were complete, we jumped on and got that done again in really good dry weather. And they've tooked fantastically. They
look really good.
They're doing
seeded
really
the banks.
well.
Seeded the banks rather than turf them.
Turf the tops, seeded the banks, to try something different, but also to look at saving money, and we can push that money elsewhere. So as a general rule of thumb, whatever the size of a tee top is, we will need the same amount of turf for the banks. So in seeding the banks, with there or thereabouts, reduced turfing cost by about 50%. So that money then can be put into somewhere else.
I definitely didn't realise the amount of money it costs to do the banks as well. I think we only think about the area that we're teeing off from, not the surrounds. So good point.
So if we can move that money elsewhere and help it to fund another tee, some bunker renovations, whatever that might be, it was a trial this year. I think it's been very successful. So I think moving forward, that's a model we should
That's
the
blueprint
follow.
for doing the tees. I certainly think that first tee in particular, when we stand on there, I'm going to have less of my playing partners complaining about the hump in the middle of the first tee.
Yeah, I think it was...
be a nice change come spring.
I think it's what we call a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, I think so. It certainly pleased me. Stopped me hooking it into the left side. So So, Andy, if Mother Nature plays her part, what should we be expecting come April next year?
A dry golf course.
Dry golf course. That's the aim, isn't it?
That's the aim. We hope so. And as you just said, Mother Nature plays a huge part in that as well. But we've got a few more bits and pieces in the pipeline of work to do.
Yeah.
As I've touched on, the 4th, the 5th, and the 11th bunkers.
Yeah.
The 18th is also right up there on our radar, in that we need to do something along that right-hand side from 150, 130 yards out to probably about 50 to 60 yards shy of the green.
Not really dried up this year, that, has it? It's been still a bit of a challenge most of the summer, hasn't it?
Been wet all summer, really, and it's something we'll have to address.
Yeah.
As the winter's gone on.
Yeah.
It's obviously not got any drier, and we can't. I certainly can't let that.
Yeah.
Continue to be as it is.
Yeah.
So we'll have to try something.
Yeah.
What that something is, we're not quite sure yet.
Yeah.
We're having a few chats and talks and thoughts on it, but we're going to have to do something. So that's going to be sort of a top priority come the new year.
Yeah.
And then hopefully heading towards the season. We did it in 21 and we did it in 22. We couldn't do it in 23 because of how wet the course was and the amount of rain we had. But the plan really is to get our maintenance knocked out on greens and tees in February.
Yeah.
I always feel that, like, in February we can do a bit of renovation on greens, micro coring and a bit of dressing. And there's never really a great pressure to produce a quality summer surface.
Yeah.
And we can let the grass recover at its own speed and train, instead of trying to force it and trying to plan it in between competitions and events and whatever else we might be hosting. We can get that done and then just sort of let Mother Nature take over and just ease them then into the season. And then once we hit the season, we can then just do little rounds of micro solid tining, top dressing, and a bit more overseeding, which isn't usually invasive.
Yeah.
So we can sort of get the nasty work out the way in the February, and there's no real pressure, as I said, to produce a quality surface, and they need to have it looking pristine as well. They never look great after they've been all cored and top dressed. So if we can get
it's necessary
that,
though, isn't it? It absolutely has to be done.
It's a necessary evil, but if we can do that and get that out the way, and then once that's done, we can then start to record our data that we take every year, revolving around stimp and bobble, clip volume, and moisture.
Going to come back to that in a second, some of your data there and some of the phrases you just used. But you mentioned the word pressure, and I think with the pretty mild autumn that we've had, and we're recording this just before Christmas, it's like 11 degrees, potentially over Christmas. It's still mild,
it's
relatively,
still mild,
but with that it brings disease pressure, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
And we do have a few greens that are struggling a little bit, as many golf clubs are, with a little bit of disease at the moment.
Yeah,
but it's nothing to get too concerned about, is it?
No, not at all. I mean, if you look at us out there, second putting green, which is outside the window here, 15 and 16 are probably the worst hit by the fusarium at the moment. But it was a culmination of a perfect storm. Going back to in and around 5th of November, bonfire night, we had 2 weeks there where we didn't have any wind at all, very little wind. It was damp all day, the dew was around, and it was relatively warm as well for the time of year. We was in and around anywhere sort of between 8 and 14 degrees.
Perfect conditions for...
It's ideal.
It's
disease
ideal. To thrive.
So, whilst them 4 greens that I've mentioned aren't great with disease at the moment, they're showing good signs of recovery. There's some new growth coming through, even at this time of year, because, as we've just said, the temperatures are up there. There's still a potential of some recovery. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, as a member of the golf club, we played 2 weeks ago now on the Saturday, and there was a lot of positive comments about, firstly, how well the course had dried up after the previous week's rain, but also how well the greens were running for this time of year. And I think we all remember last year and how little golf we got to play. So the fact that we're playing a relatively and relative is the word, dry course in November, I think we've been very, very lucky.
Yeah, definitely. And as I said, 6-7 weeks ahead of where we were last year.
Yeah.
In terms of everything,
Yeah.
the cutting, the course was fully cut 3 weeks ago now, 2 weeks ago. We've been out again the end of last week and this morning doing a bit more cutting and presenting for over the Christmas period. We had no chance whatsoever of doing that last year, none whatsoever. So it's a positive that we'll definitely take.
Speaking of cutting, Andy, and again we'll touch on this in more depth in another episode, but you had 2 new additions to the greenkeeping team this year.
Derek and Al.
Yeah. One on the front side, one on the back side, and they cut rain, shine.
Yeah, they're right there now.
Yeah. Water doesn't phase them. So just very quickly, just explain who they are.
So Derek and Alan are 2 robotic mowers.
Yeah.
Programmed via your phone to do whatever area you want, basically. So the 2 that we've gone for are 2 Husqvarna 550s, which cut down to 20 millimeters in height. So they're all right for doing fairways at this time of year, just to present them. But in general, from a course maintenance point of view, we invested in these 2, and I hope we can get a couple more yet. But we invested in these 2 to do semi-rough. So the semi-rough that I'm thinking or talking about is from in front of the tee to the start of the fairway. A lot of our semi-rough areas in front of tees are all but big rectangles.
Mm-hmm.
So we can manage them quite efficiently with them with the 2 robots. They get a lot done, and they're out virtually 24/7 at the moment. Probably cutting the areas too much.
Right.
We could drop off a cut in some areas and move into another.
Yeah.
But it's all about just working out what works for us, what suits us best at this moment in time. They have the blips, as does everything else, but they're doing a great job, and I think it's been a great investment by the club.
I think there's some really positive comments from many of the members and visitors that we get here, especially if you look at the approach from the tee on 4 all the way to the green. That looks incredible. From 17 tee down to the fairway, from the 12th tee down to the fairway, you can really see the difference that they're making. And as I say, we'll touch on this in more depth another time, but they certainly free up man hours, don't they?
Yeah,
for your lads to do some more of the technical stuff.
Yeah, so they arrived August into September, and obviously we're sort of coming to the end of the season, so we weren't quite cutting as regular as we would, because grass growth is slowing down. But I think there or thereabouts, we're saving about 22 to 25 hours a week at the moment. And as I said, they're not out doing it to the full potential yet. I think there's more areas we can introduce them into, and then that'll add to their workload and take it off the lads, who can then concentrate on the little bits of stuff that matter.
Yeah.
The likes of trimming around trees or bunkers or banks or trimming irrigation heads or putting an extra hole change in a week, or trimming tee markers, all the little bits and pieces that you only get once a month. Well, hopefully now we can start to do once a week or every other week.
Yeah.
And just try to refine the areas that have neglected a bit of attention, but also we don't have a guy just sat there cutting a big open area.
Yeah, sure.
Getting bored out his tree. So no, they've been a really good investment. Really good.
Yeah, good. I think we'll start to wrap some of these things up a little bit and pick them up in a future pod. But just quickly, as I introduce you as the king of data, one of the pieces of data you take during the main playing season is Stim meter readings on the golf course, on the green. So just firstly, can you explain what the Stim meter is and why you take it?
So I'll have to turn this into two bits of data that I collect because they go hand in hand. So I take stimp and bobble readings, and I also take clip volume readings. So firstly, to your first question, stimp.
Yeah.
So stimp is a stick, bar, for want of a better word, with a notch in. You lift it up slowly, it gets to a certain point, it rolls off, and you measure them from the end of the stimp meter to where the ball finishes. You take 3 ball rolls in one direction, turn around 3 in the other, and you average that distance out. So for me here, I take the same 4 greens in the same place.
Yeah, keep it consistent.
3 or 4 times a week. So I do the 1st, the 6th, the 12th, and the 16th. And it throws up some interesting results. Now that it's been ongoing for 2 or 3 years, you can start to see patterns form. But combined with that, we also take clip volume readings, which is we measure how much grass we take off the green, how much we cut and collect in the grass catching boxes. And that helps to inform us on when feed is wearing off. Do they need another feed, or should we hold off a little bit? You know, it also gives us signs of greens struggling with health that actually look okay, but they aren't.
Right.
So we take that reading as well, and that helps to inform us on the speed of the greens without actually taking a stimp meter reading. So for us here in Hindley Hall, and I'm sure it'll be different in every other golf club that does these readings, if we take between 8 and 12 millilitres of grass clippings per square metre of golf green, we will average at about 9'8" to 10 foot on the stimp.
Right, okay.
Now, I haven't openly put that number out there until now. And that's
make a note of that.
Because I wanted to see what people's reactions was to the greens without actually giving them a number. So if you give, figure of speech, greens are 10 today, or they're fantastic. I don't want to publish that number every day because tomorrow they might be 9'6". And does 9'6" equate to, oh, they're not so clever today, the greens? Or is it just because somebody's been given a number to think about? But on average, this year and last year, we've been between 9'8" and 10'2" for the majority of the season. So the season for me, when we start measuring, is normally end of Feb, start of March to mid-October. So
quite a long period of the year then,
actually. So that's the season that I'm looking and measuring at.
To put some context into that number, I've just watched some of the DP World Tour event from Mauritius, and anybody who watches golf on TV, they always tend to put the stimp meter readings for the course of playing that week. And this week they were stimping at 9.4, which for a professional event sounds relatively slow. But because they got the winds and there were slopey greens, they didn't want them to get out of hand. And I think if we get to the higher end of your stimp meter tolerance, your little window there that you try and keep it in, I think because our greens are small and because there are plenty of slope on them, we very quickly could get them unplayable. And we're having people putting off the green and 4-putting, 5-putting, and at the end of the day, it doesn't look to a very enjoyable round of golf, does it? I certainly don't enjoy 5-putting any greens.
Not at all.
And I think they are a challenge in their own right. They're small, they're undulating. So to get them anywhere up to 11, I think you're endangering the playability.
Definitely, you know, and that's where the clip volume reading comes in that, you know, we can cut greens and take off 6 millilitres of grass per square metre. Well, we're not growing, it might be baking hot, we might be starting to brown off, so we're just giving them a bit of water. Well, we've got an informed section of data then that we can look at and say, right, well, we'll miss cutting them tomorrow because if we cut them, they could get unplayable, and it's a Saturday tomorrow, and it's the Lee Pemberton Cup, the Salter Trophy, whatever that might be.
Scratch Cup. Plenty of names on there.
It's, you know, so it helps us to make informed decisions of an afternoon for our schedule of work for the day after. And do we cut? Do we not? Do we roll instead of cutting? Do we cut and roll? It helps to inform our decisions and tries to give, or helps us to give, consistency throughout the season, in that we've not got a specific number to stick at, but we've got a bracket that everybody seems to like. That sort of number seems to suit everybody, from your highest handicapper to your lowest. It's there or thereabouts.
I think we are known for having
that number
slightly faster than average greens here at Hindley, I would say.
Yeah, and I think that's down to the undulations in some of them as well.
The topography of the greens and everything else, That's really good. And that's where your data comes into hand, doesn't it? That you've got all these 2-3 years worth of data to fall back on to say, this is when we perform well, this is when it gets out of hand, or this is when we can do some improvements to get it up to speed, to try and keep it consistent.
Exactly. And that's all we're after. We just after consistency. So time and time again, it's the same for everybody throughout the day as well. You know, it's important that we regulate growth on the greens as well. That those who play first thing in the morning, and more in the height of summer, I'm talking about here, but those who play first thing in the morning are following the Mowers round. You know, so they could play a green that's been cut half an hour ago. But likewise, you could have a team match that night and the last person tees off at 6 o'clock. By the time they're playing the 15th, 16th, 17th hole, their round of golf, that putting green is closer to being cut again than it is to having been cut. So
the later in the day you play, you're closer to the Mowers coming out again than you are them just being cut.
So if you can regulate, if you can regulate that growth, we then can maintain a consistent speed throughout the day. You know, speed will always drop off throughout the day. They'll always be the quickest in the morning, especially if there's no dew.
I'm going to say the dew would affect that, wouldn't it?
And they'll always be a touch slower at night. But how slow is that touch slower? Can we limit that? In that, well, figure of speech, they only drop off by 3-4 inch on the stem. And if they weren't regulated, then they might drop off by a foot, 2 foot. It could be that big of a difference. And that's, again, where we can gain consistency.
Good stuff. I think what we'll do is we'll wrap that up there, but just look ahead very quickly into what we might get in 2025. Should Mother Nature, who we've talked about a lot as being either our friend or foe at the moment, if Mother Nature is our friend moving into spring 2025, we're going to see a lot of these jobs finished off, all the drainage work. The tees will be bedded in and ready for play. Come captain's driving.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Sometime in March in 2025. And what are we looking at through the course of next year? Just very quickly as an overview, what are our goals and ambitions for 2025?
Goals and ambitions is to get greens back to 2022.
So bearing in mind the winter that we had in 23, 24 set us on the back foot for most of this year. So
we want to get back to there. And route development to play a key part of that. You know, we did have
greens routes. So that's the healthy routes.
You know, the wet weather through the winter certainly took away some of that route development that we have been creating. So we want to get that back. We want to improve the population of the bent grasses in the greens, which again we'll talk about further in another podcast.
Different species of grass, and
we want that bent grass, and then we want some significant improvement in tee presentation and surround approach presentation. You know, I've got a few plans up my sleeve for that. We've got a great team around us now, and I see no reason why we can't push on with that, starting February time when we do the maintenance to the greens. Once the greens are done, we'll move on to the tees and surrounds. So that's really the two big focuses.
Fantastic
for this season, 2025.
Well, you have got a great team, Andy. You lead it really well, and we're all really supportive of everything that we're trying to do as a member. We're really supportive of everything we're trying to do in terms of the course. We've mentioned that this pod won't just focus on the course we have done today, but it will form a key part of everything that we do. But we've also got our fantastic team that look after the clubhouse with Paul and Jody. That are going to be nipping on our incredibly strong competition calendar. We've got these boards behind us, all the majors that we play for during the course of the year. So Di and Stu will be popping in just to give us their input, and our club manager Dave, who's been instrumental in helping us to really focus on the future rather than trying to pick up from the past. We're really focused on the next few years and beyond, and Dave's going to jump in and have a few strategic things to say about where we are and what we're doing for the membership and the visitors. But as a community as well, we have a great local area that come in and support the club with the fantastic food that's behind here. But most of all, we're a golf club, and this course behind us out here is what we're focused on. So hopefully you picked up a little bit from Andy today, some of his knowledge there. He is the king of data. We'll delve into that even more as we go through. Talk a bit more about Derek and Al and what they can do. And focus on the
team.
Focus on the team that you've got as well. So plenty to come up, and thanks for listening to the first Hindley Herald podcast, and we'll be back in 2025.
Thank you.